Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. The fluorescent tubes buzzed like hornets over the exam rows. My blue pen slipped in my sweaty grip. A thin desk edge pressed a line into my forearm. The wall clock clicked louder than breathing, like a metronome for panic. My name is Mara, and I am 17. The glass door shimmered with hallway light like a cold lake. My mom leaned there with one hand on the metal frame. Her eyes found me through the glare and would not blink. "Don't write your last name," she whispered. Her breath fogged a thumbprint on the glass. A paper wristband on her arm rubbed the door edge. I felt the pen tip bite paper, then hesitate. 2 minutes left to start, the proctor said. His clipboard smacked his palm like a drum. The rubber soles of his shoes squeaked in the aisle. My mouth tasted like sanitizer and fear. The test booklet waited with a sealed plastic odor. A printed name box sat empty like a trap. My ID card grazed the wood and made a tiny tick. The red camera light above the whiteboard pulsed, counting us. A girl behind me uncapped a black marker and sighed. The marker scent cut through the chalk dust like mint. A silver water bottle rolled and knocked my chair leg. I did not turn. I stared at the blank square. "Phones in pouches now," the proctor said. A clear pouch scratched my palm as I sealed it shut. The zipper teeth rasped like insects on glass. I pushed the pouch into the canvas bin, eyes up. My mom tapped the door frame with her ring. The metal ping carried across the tiled floor. She tightened her scarf and pressed her mouth close. "First name only," she said, and waited. A vent pushed cool air across my wrists like ice. The booklet cover gleamed under flickering light like a wet leaf. A dull pencil rolled toward the edge and paused. I placed it parallel to the pen, like rails. "Seat B12, the proctor said to me. He dragged a red pen line across his roster sheet. The fiber tip whispered over paper like dry grass. My chest rose once and stuck there. A boy in the front row cracked his knuckles. The sound popped like tiny fireworks in an empty street. His blue hoodie bunched against the plastic chair back. The proctor lifted a stapler and stared him down. The room smelled like old erasers and fresh toner. Dust floated in the light like snow that refused to land. A whiteboard marker lay uncapped on the tray and bled. My pulse tapped the desk wood, steady then not. My mom mouthed a word I could not hear. Wait. Her palm stayed flat on the glass like a pressed leaf. The hallway's exit sign washed her face with green light. She did not move. She watched the pen. "Begin on my count," the proctor said. He raised one finger like a flag on a pole. The clipboard edge clicked against the desk behind me. The numbers sounded huge in the humming air. I lowered the pen and touched the box lightly. The paper fibers roughened like linen under rain. The ink bled a dot that spread like a bruise. The last name line shone white and hungry. The red camera light flicked once and steadied. A stack of spare forms sagged on the front table. The cardboard box under them showed a torn corner. I pictured my last name filling it and locking in. 10 seconds now, the proctor said softly. His breath smelled like coffee and mint gum. The clock hands crossed and looked like a blade. I pressed the barrel against my thumb, harder. A girl coughed into a sleeve and whispered sorry. Her pencil shaved a curl onto the laminate floor. The curl stuck to my shoe and trailed like thread. I did not brush it off. I listened. The window rattled from a passing truck outside. Brake air hissed like a tired dragon and faded. My mom closed her eyes and tapped the frame once. The tap echoed, small but sharp. "Begin," the proctor said, then stepped back. The fluorescent buzz deepened like a swarm in a jar. Pages opened around me, like birds taking flight. I wrote Mara in slow, dark strokes and stopped. The proctor's shadow slid across my desk. His shoes scraped once on laminate. The clock clicked hard in the fluorescent wash. I lifted the booklet and felt the rough cover. The empty box glared like a mouth. He stopped at my elbow with his clipboard. Coffee breath edged his words like steam. The plastic pen cap tapped the desk wood. He reached for my ID card and paused. He watched the name line like a fuse. My throat felt dry under the white lights. The laminated card stuck to my palm. "Problem with the form?" he asked. I slid the card across the desk edge. "All good," I said, and left the box blank. Pages crackled like foil as the roast started. Pencils scratched a dry swarm into the air. My eraser sat heavy near the booklet corner. I wrote the first line and skipped the next. The silence pressed down like snow. The bell jolted the hallway into motion. Chairs scraped and bounced under fluorescent glare. The test packet slid from my damp fingers. I stood and caught my backpack strap. She waited at the glass with tight shoulders. The door opened with a rubbery sigh against tile. Her perfume mixed with stale corridor dust. She held a paper cup that shook. "Not here," she said. Her eyes cut to the camera dome, then back. We moved past lockers that smelled like pennies. A dented lunchbox clanged against metal and swung. I kept my folder tight against my chest. "What is happening?" I said. She pushed the stairwell door with her hip. The stairwell echoed with our steps and breath. The concrete rail felt gritty under my hand. Light bled through a wired window on the landing. "Give me the packet," she said. I held it like it might burn. She slid the packet into her tote. The zipper rasped like a thin saw. The canvas strap lifted the hair on my arm. "Name line stays empty today," she said. Her keys knocked the rail, sharp and bright. We stepped into the office and heat hit hard. The copier hummed with a warm ozone smell. A stack of colored forms leaned on a stapler. The receptionist raised a painted finger at us. "Principal needs that form," she said. The principal appeared with a lanyard swinging. His cologne cut through the toner and dust. A brass nameplate flashed on his office door. "We must complete records," he said. His smile held like tape and heat. I studied the light on his tie clip. The tiny eagle glared under the fluorescence. A ceramic mug sweated near his keyboard. "We will submit the identifier number," she said. He nodded, then looked at the blank box. "Policy requires a full surname," he said. He tapped the desk with a capped Sharpie. The tap sounded like drops on a tin roof. My hands pressed the cool edge of a chair. I felt the room tilt, just slightly. Her tote thumped the floor near the chair leg. The sound traveled through my shoes like thunder. She laid a small white envelope on the desk. "We will handle this by Friday," she said. The envelope stayed unopened, waiting like a match. The office door clicked and let in hallway noise. A cart rattled past with binders and tape. A bulletin board shimmered under glass beside the printer. A man in plaid studied it with still shoulders. His phone lifted and flashed once. The flash left a white dot in my sight. The dot floated over the stack of forms. The receptionist adjusted a little desk fan toward us. "Do you know him?" I asked. The fan hummed louder, covering her silence. We stepped back into the stairwell light. The cool air smelled faintly like bleach. A red exit bar pressed into my palm. "We leave now," she said. Her voice sounded sanded down by worry. Outside, thin sun bounced off wet pavement. The smell of rain mixed with exhaust. A gray sedan idled near the curb. Its window stayed almost closed like a lid. The driver watched the office door and waited. We reached our car and metal clicked. The key fob beeped once in the light. A static smell leaked from the dashboard vents. "Get in," she said. My seatbelt cut across my ribs like wire. Her hand shook on the steering wheel leather. The wheel felt cool and tacky under mine. She opened the glove box and pulled a document. The paper had a watermark that glimmered. A blank surname field stared up like ice. My phone buzzed with a block number. The vibration crawled across the console like an insect. The cracked screen lit my wrist with pale blue. "Answer on speaker," she said. I tapped it and swallowed hard. "Please confirm your surname," a voice said. The tone sounded friendly and airless like hold music. A plastic parking pass dangled from our mirror. "You have the number instead," I said. The silence built like fog on glass. "Names prevent errors in reconciliation," the voice said. The words rattled like coins in a dryer. I watched raindrops gather on the antenna. "We will deliver what is required," she said. The call clicked off without goodbye. The sedan eased forward and turned slowly. Headlights smeared across the wet bumper like paint. The engine hummed steady and patient. A forgotten pencil rolled under my shoe. I pressed my heel down and held it. She pulled into traffic with a tight breath. The wipers chattered over grit in a rhythm. A blue folder slid across the passenger mat. We need a copy store, she said. I nodded and watched the rearview mirror. A neon sign flickered on the next block. The light buzzed like a trapped wasp above glass. A sandwich board leaned against a rusted trash can. The word copies shone and then dimmed. The sedan ghosted past in the reflection. We parked and the door hinges squealed. The smell of toner hit like a wall. A laminator clicked near a dusty postcard rack. 2 minutes, the clerk said. He slid a scissor set along the counter. She placed the envelope on the glass bed. The scanner light crawled like sunrise under plastic. I held the lid and felt its cold grit. 1 copy for school, she said. 1 for us, I said, and watched the bar crawl. The printer coughed and spat warm paper. The smell turned sweet like hot dust. The stapler waited on a chain by the register. Do not write it again, she said. My fingers closed around the staple barred. Outside, the rain slowed to a faint hiss. Streetlight halos glowed on the puddles like coins. A receipt stuck to my palm and crinkled. The sedan idled across the street under a tree. The tailpipe smoked like a warning. A crumpled flyer slapped a mailbox in the wind. The paper made a wet clack like a flag. A loose screw glinted on the curb by my shoe. We are going home, she said. The flyer peeled away and skittered. The front door latch scraped twice and stuck. The brass key bit my thumb as I forced it. Rain smell followed us into the dim hall. The deadbolt thumped home like a gavel, too final. Footsteps clicked in the kitchen on tile. A drawer slammed and cut the air like a slap. The fridge light washed the room a pale blue. A dented saucepan sat crooked on the stove, waiting. She slid the envelope under a cookbook stack. Paper rasped against cardboard with a dry sigh. The lamp threw a thin gold triangle on linoleum. The spine of a red cookbook lifted, just a hair. Was that sedan ours? I asked. My voice touched the metal sink and came back thin. The kettle sat cold on the back burner. Eat first, she said, and reached for the faucet. Water boomed in the empty kettle like thunder. Steam kissed my face with a metallic taste. A chipped mug waited beside a spoon on the counter. He was waiting by the door, I said. Not here, she said, and watched the window. My phone buzzed on the table and spun. The cracked screen lit my knuckles with harsh white. An image loaded with grain like salt on glass. My plate photo stared back with a new caption. Nice aim. Who sent that? She asked. She crushed a napkin until it squeaked. The trash can lid bucked as she dropped it. Block number, I said, and felt the table tremble. I opened the hallway closet and breathed dust. Coats brushed my cheek like damp paper in wind. A wooden broom handle thumped against a shoebox. The bare bulb flickered once and held. A tin box hid behind board games and cords. The lid felt cold and greasy under my nails. The faded cookie roses flaked into my palm. The lock clicked once, then gave like wet chalk. Inside lay a hospital bracelet and a card. The bracelet smelled like old plastic and salt. A small USB stick touched a folded receipt. The metal caught the bulb light, bright and mean. A brass key rested under the receipt edge. The key teeth were sharp and clean like a saw. A tiny number 214 was stamped near the bow. The digits shone like fish scales and vanished. Headlights swept the living room curtains fast. The fabric glowed then sank back into night. Tires hissed on wet pavement outside the glass. The curtain hem lifted, just a whisper. A side door creaked and boots entered slow. A paper bag swung from a wrist and rustled. Soy sauce and fried garlic rode the heat hard. What's that box? My dad said and set the bag down. Old junk, she said. She wiped her hands on a dish towel. The towel left damp stripes on the tablewood. Let me see, he said and reached for the tin. I slid the USB into my pocket quick. The metal cooled my thigh through denim. A fork on the counter chimed when I bumped it. I need to check something, I said and stepped back. She touched the bracelet and flinched. Goosebumps raced under her sleeve like a ripple. The bracelet tag pressed a shallow line in her skin. Not that, she said and pulled her hand away. The envelope watermark matched the card's pale seal. The paper felt ridged like a fingerprint under light. A stamped circle held a crest with tiny stars. The edges quivered in my grip alive. Where did you get those? My dad asked. He lifted the takeout lid and let steam rise. The plastic lid rattled against the container lip. "Closet," I said and watched his face close. "We are not safe if you dig," he said. His voice shook like a wire in wind. A single chopstick rolled and kissed the stove grate. "Someone already found us," I said and tapped my phone. The brass key warmed in my fist slowly. It left a faint metallic smell on my skin. The number 214 cut into my palm like teeth. "This goes to a box," I said and waited. She pulled a ring of spare keys from a drawer. The metal jangled and filled the kitchen like rain. A small flashlight thudded beside them on the table. "We check it tonight," she said and killed the lamp. We left with the lights off and shoes silent. The door clicked and held the night back. Cold air bit my cheeks under the porch lamp. The car door skin felt wet like stone, then shut. "Back seat," she said. She shoved the flashlight into my hand. Leather smelled like old coffee and winter rain. My dad locked the gate with a quick snap, eyes up. The engine turned over and hummed low. Wipers scraped grit and chattered across the glass. A grocery receipt fluttered on the dash like a moth. I held the USB in my pocket, hard and steady. Headlights filled the mirror and narrowed again. The sedan kept the car length like a rule. Radio static hissed under my ribs and thumped. The license plate frame rattled on bumps, never far. We cut toward the old bus depot by tracks. Sodium lights bled orange across wet concrete. Diesel hung in the air like bitter tea. A vending machine hummed near a cracked bench alone. "Move fast," she said. She pulled her hood tight and breathed. The metal door handle felt greasy and cold. A red exit sign buzzed above us like a warning. Inside, the hall echoed with coin clinks and coughs. A board guard watched a small TV beside a stool. Fluorescent light flattened everything into paper and bones. The locker wall ran in dull blue squares. My fingers traced the numbers like braille. Paint flaked onto my nails like ash. The key teeth dug my palm with each step. 214 stood alone, like a held breath. The lock swallowed the key and stuck once. The turn scraped dry metal and sparked a squeal. Rust smell blew out like a basement door. The small hatch swung open, dark as a throat. A manila envelope rested on a metal lip. The paper felt cool and ridged under sweat. A rubber band cut a groove across the middle. I looked at her, then slid it free. "Quick," she whispered. She watched the ceiling camera with a tilt. The camera lens gleamed like a wet eye. My dad stepped left and blocked the beam, casual. We moved to the bench under the humming light. The bench was sticky with old cleaner and gum. The flashlight rolled and tapped my shoe twice. I sliced the band with my locker key fast. Photocopies spilled with that hot toner smell. A sticky note clung to the top page. Its ink glared in blue under the fluorescent wash. "First name only. Use ID, no surname." My throat tightened as I touched the corner. The paper rasped like dry leaves against skin. The stapler on the counter glinted under glare. I slid the note under my sleeve, burning. A black notebook lay beneath the copies. The leather cracked like dry paint at the spine. Numbers and dates marched in tight, angry lines. Beat 12 sat circled in red, today in bold. "Who wrote this?" I asked. I tapped the circle with my nail. The sound clicked like a metronome on metal. She didn't answer. Her eyes tracked the door. A prepaid phone hid inside a bubble wrap sleeve. The plastic felt slick and cold like ice. A charger cord knotted around the small battery. The screen woke to drafts, locker compromised. Footsteps scraped near the ticket window and paused. A cough rattled through the tiles like gravel. The guard's radio crackled and then went quiet. A flashlight beam washed the lockers, slow and white. "Stay calm," my dad said. He picked up a soda can and crushed it. The aluminum snapped like a trap in dirt. The guard turned toward the noise, curious. "Sorry about the mess," my dad said. He bent to the trash with exaggerated care. The trash lid creaked like a yawning mouth. The beam drifted off us, then held. "Almost done," she said. She slid papers into her tote. The zipper rasped like a saw in soft wood. I pocketed the phone and notebook, breathless. A thin metal tin remained in the back. The tin smelled faintly of oil and pennies. My fingernail lifted the lid with a scrape. Inside lay a tiny brass key, tagged Registry 3E. I pinched the tag and felt stamped letters bite. The key warmed against my palm like a coal. The bench light shimmered across its teeth. Another lock waited, somewhere close. "We go now," she said. She tugged my sleeve toward the door. The floor felt slick under my sneakers and thin. The exit sign buzzed louder, almost angry. The sedan idled by the loading dock in shadow. Tail lights smeared red across pooled rainwater. Exhaust trailed along the curb like low fog. The trunk trembled once, then stilled. We slid into the car and doors thumped. The cabin smelled like damp wool and fear. The dashboard clock glowed green on our hands. I curled around the notebook, hard and small. Headlights angled behind us and flashed once. The flash painted the rear view in harsh white. My dad tapped the brake and watched the mirror. The engine hummed higher, ready to run. "What is Registry 3E?" I asked. My voice felt thin against the windshield. A parking ticket fluttered on the visor like a leaf. "Records floor," she said and swallowed. The prepaid phone buzzed with a single blink. The screen showed one bar like a weak pulse. A new message glowed with a timestamp tick. "Use the south stair. Do not sign." I read it twice and tasted metal. The word sign scratched my tongue like grit. The glove compartment latch clicked under my thumb. I tucked the key beside a faded map, waiting. We turned left and left again into dark streets. Streetlights smeared across wet hoods like gold paint. The wipers beat time against the hiss of tires. I steadied the envelope on my knees, anchored. The notebook edge pressed a line in my skin. Ink smell rose from the pages like smoke. The circle around E12 felt hot through the cover. I kept my hand there, like a promise. A siren wailed somewhere and then fell off. Blue light flickered against a brick wall nearby. A crushed cup rolled along the gutter and rattled. We passed it slowly, like a test. "Tomorrow we'll hit hard," she said. She watched the road with knuckles white on leather. The heater fan ticked and blew dry warmth. I stared at Registry 3E on the tag and shivered. We hit the curb in a dark glide. The street smelled like wet metal and cold smoke. A sodium lamp bled yellow onto the glass door. My hand found the south stair handle, greasy and slick. The handle gave with a hollow clunk. Bleach drifted from the stairwell like winter air. A red emergency bulb pulsed above the landing. I kept the notebook tight against my ribs, heartbeat to heartbeat. Our steps clicked soft on the gritty concrete. The rail felt cold and sticky under my palm. Paint dust rubbed off and clung to my skin. Floor numbers rose in black stencils. 3E weighted like a lid. A gray door stood with a wired window. Fluorescent light hummed beyond like trapped bees. A brass tag read Registry 3E in tiny letters. The little key warmed in my fist, answer-shaped. Metal scraped and the lock turned slow. Paper smell pushed out like a quiet exhale. A box fan whirred in the corner with grit. Shelves climbed the walls like sleeping ladders, tall and stern. A lectern held a thick blue logbook. The leather felt cracked and sticky to the touch. A pin and a chain glinted in the hard light. A blank line waited under "Sign here." Knife straight. "Don't," she said. She touched my wrist and breathed slow. The fan rattled once and steadied again. I let the pen hang, swinging like a pendulum. File drawers lined the left wall in rows. The handles were cold and left black streaks. Card tabs flickered under the buzzing tubes. I slid one marked "Reconcile" and felt it bite. A ledger thudded onto the table edge. The paper rasped like sand under my fingertips. Columns ran in tight lines with small red stamps. B12 printed clean in the margin, fresh ink. "That's today," I said. My voice came out dry and small. The stapler beside the ledger creaked as I leaned. A sticky note tucked inside flashed blue. Different identifier confirmed. A second page listed codes in a grid. Toner smell rose when I rubbed the corner. A symbol repeated like a warning triangle. R3E appeared beside surname needed, bold and black. "What is R3E?" I asked. I tapped the letters and felt the paper give. The desk lamp haloed the page in sickly white. She watched the door and did not blink. The prepaid phone thrummed against the table. The vibration rattled a paper clip like a tiny drum. One text slid open in the harsh light. 40 seconds camera gap now. Copy it, she said. Her voice snapped like a cold twig. The little scanner blinked awake with a soft chime. I fed the ledger corner under the lid, hand shaking. The bar crawled with a faint electric buzz. Warm paper slid out and brushed my wrist. The copier glass smelled like hot dust and glue. A faint R3E ghosted across the margin, just enough. Footsteps tapped somewhere in the hallway. The sound struck the door like spaced raindrops. A key ring jingled once and then twice. I eased the ledger shut, heartbeat high. The wired window brightened with a sweeping beam. The flashlight washed the corridor like a slow tide. A mop handle leaned against a steel cart. The cart squeaked and then stopped, right outside. Lights, he whispered. He palmed the switch with a dry click. The fan wind thinned and the room cooled fast. We stood in grainy dim, shadows long and sharp. Keys slid in the hall like coins on tile. The doorknob jiggled once and then held. Cleaner smell bled under the crack like lemon smoke. I clutched the copy until the paper bent. The knob settled and the cart rolled away. The squeak faded into the stairwell like a worm. A single fluorescent tube ticked and tried to live. It failed and left everything hung, breathless. I opened another drawer with careful fingers. The metal groaned like a waking gate. Inside lay envelopes with waxy seals and tags. One label read Override Friday, 10 o'clock, black stamp. A wristwatch on the desk caught a gleam. The second hand jumped under the pulsing light. My skin prickled at the cold air on my neck. Friday matched the circled time, hard truth ticking. Take one, she said. She slid the flashlight into her pocket. The beam leaked a crescent under the fabric edge. I palmed the envelope like contraband, pulsed tight. A slim binder hid behind the envelopes. The cover felt like vinyl with dust and grit. Tabs marked schools and vendors in stiff plastic. A paperclip bit a memo, R3E Live Audit Pilot. The memo smelled like toner and new glue. A small stamp read manual if surname withheld. Margin notes marked ID path with short arrows. A triangle pointed at B12, ink still wet. Someone knew your seat, he said. He pressed a finger on the arrow and frowned. The table edge dug into my hip like a bar. My breath clouded the glossy page, tiny storms. The prepaid phone blinked once and stilled. A hairline crack caught the fluorescence and sparked. New message waited with a small white. Use counselor entrance tomorrow, no desk signatures. I snapped a photo with my cracked screen. The shutter click sounded loud in the dead room. The notebook's spine scratched my palm as I scribbled. The letters R3E dug into the paper, black and deep. A floorboard popped outside like a knuckle. Dust danced in the air under the door light. The mop handle tapped twice against metal. I froze with the envelope pressed flat, silent. He reached for the logbook with steady hands. The page curled like a leaf in dry heat. The pen chain chimed against the lectern wood. He slid the book closed, no ink left behind. We filed the ledger back in its slot. The drawer face shined in the humming dark. A paper corner stuck out like a tongue. I tucked it smooth, erasing our breath. The key turned and the door latched soft. The stairwell swallowed us in cooler air. A gum wrapper stuck to my shoe like foil. I peeled it off and watched it fall, silverfish. We took the south stairs, two at a time. The rail cut a cold stripe into my palm. The exit bar glowed red in the low light. I pushed it with my shoulder, ready to run. Night pressed the lot with oily quiet. Rain ticked on a metal sign near the curb. The gray sedan idled beneath a half-dead lamp. A door cracked open and flashed a sleeve, dark cloth. Left, he said. He tossed his keys and caught them twice. The jingle rang out and drew the gaze. The sedan's dome light blinked, then died. We cut between dumpsters that stank like weak bleach. A broken pallet scraped my ankle through denim. Neon from a deli painted the puddles green. Our reflections scattered into ripples, thin ghosts. The alley opened onto a service road. A delivery truck coughed and rattled in gear. Steam seeped from a grate in little snarls. I tucked the memo deep into my coat, hot skin. Headlights swept the brick and then vanished. Tires whispered over wet asphalt like silk on stone. A cardboard box skittered and slapped a drain. The sound cracked the quiet, sharp and mean. We reached the car and doors thudded once. The seat fabric rasped under my damp hands. The dashboard glow lit the copy pale and eerie. Our 3E stared back like a brand, ugly and alive. "Read it," she said. Her knuckles blanched on the wheel leather. The heater fan blew dry air across my face. I unfolded the envelope flap, slow and careful. Inside lay a small white card. The surface felt smooth like a tile underwater. A QR block sat beside a single line. First name and number permitted, no surname. A second slip hid behind the card. The paper was thinner and smelled like clay. Red letters warned override if absent at 10. The font bit my eyes, serious and final. My phone buzzed with a new number. The ring sounded thin in the closed car. I raised it and watched the cracked glass shimmer. "Speak," I said and waited. "Bring the stick to the counselor," a voice said. The tone was flat like a synthesized bell. Streetlight glare carved a line across the dial. "No signatures anywhere," the voice said. "Who are you?" I asked. My throat tightened against the heater hiss. The envelope edge cut my thumb and stung. "Your seat is marked," the voice said. The line clicked and left a soft hiss. The sound crawled into the vents like dust. My dad drummed the steering wheel with 2 fingers. The rhythm matched the wipers, tick for tick. I pressed the copy against the dash light. The ink shone slightly with wet toner smell. R3E linked to Override Friday in bold black. The letters looked heavier now, like iron on paper. "Tomorrow we walk in," she said. Her breath fogged the glass with a fast bloom. A parking stub slid across the console and stopped. "We use the counselor door," she said. I tucked the QR card under the visor. The plastic clip snapped with a small bite. The light from the lot made it glow faintly. That glow felt like a fuse, short and bright. We pulled away, and the sedan followed slow. The taillights washed red across our trunk. The engine hum stayed patient and low. I held the envelope on my lap, anchor and wait. Rain thickened and drummed on the roof. The sound wrapped the car like dull fabric. A roadside reflector flashed white and then gone. We drove into that blink, toward a blank line. I pushed the counselor door and felt it stick. Rainwater dripped from my sleeve onto the mat. A red sensor beeped once in the dim hall. The QR card flashed under the reader, then passed. Stale coffee hung in the office like a film. The desk lamp threw a cone across a calendar. A ceramic whale held paper clips near the edge. The door side shut behind me, soft but final. She rose from a mustard chair without a smile. Her heels clicked once on the vinyl floor. The air tasted like lemon cleaner and nerves. "Show me the card," she said, hand out. I slid the white card across the blotter. The blotter felt grainy like old felt under sweat. A brass stapler winked in the lamp glow. She scanned the QR with a black phone, careful. "Leave the surname box blank," she said. She placed a blue folder beside a sticky pad. The folder smelled like ink and dust from storage. "Sign nowhere else," she said, and watched my hands. Knuckles rapped the glass and rattled the blinds. Footsteps rubbed the hall like sand on wood. Light from the window striped the gray carpet. A visitor badge dangled by the door, still swinging. "Someone followed you," she said. Her voice stayed low and steady. The room heater ticked like a small insect. She moved a chair to block the sightline, quick. A shredder hummed under her desk like a hive. Paper curls gathered in a clear bin like snakes. A silver hole punch sat heavy on the mat. "Put the stick here," she said and tapped. I set the USB on the blotter edge. The plastic shell felt slick in the warm light. She slid it into a desktop tower slot. The tower fan whirred, alert and hungry. "Where did you get this?" she asked. She typed with tight fingers and short pauses. The keys clacked like rain on a thin roof. I watched the drive light blink, green to amber. "It was in a locker," I said. My voice felt tight in the lemon air. Her stapler shadow crawled across the keyboard. She nodded once, eyes on the screen. A form appeared with rows of gray boxes. The pixels shimmered under the lamp like fine dust. A rubber stamp lay near the mouse like a thread. "This route bypasses the roster," she said, almost to herself. She pulled a stamp pad closer and pressed hard. The rubber left manual ID in heavy black letters. Ink smell rose and coated my tongue like syrup. This keeps you invisible, she said and waited. Metal clicked outside and then stopped short. A cart squeaked once against the floor seam. The overhead light flickered and steadied with a sigh. A clipboard shadow passed the frosted glass slow. "We have minute," she said. Her hand shook and then flattened. The whale cup tipped as she pulled a file. Paper clips chimed like coins, bright and thin. She slid a page across with one finger. The paper felt chalky and cold on my skin. A small box read surname triggers crosswalk vendor route. A red triangle sat beside the line, angry. "What happens then?" I asked. My throat scraped like I had swallowed grit. The desk lamp buzzed near my cheek like a gnat. She pointed at another box marked custodial alert. "Old contractor still pings the list," she said. Her breath fogged a tiny cloud on the screen. A sticky note curled at the corner like a leaf. "They get flagged names," she said flat. A door in the hall clicked and opened. Cologne drifted in like sweet chalk over heat. The blinds faintly rattled as air pressure changed. A pin cap bounced off the sill. Tiny tap. "Time to move," she said. She grabbed the blue folder and stood. Her chair groaned and rolled into the cabinet. She handed me a pale badge, counselor access. The badge strap scratched my neck like twine. Fluorescent light washed the hallway until it burned. A bulletin board shimmered with pushpins like stars. We stepped out together, shoulders tight. We cut right and hugged the cold cinder block. Shoes whispered on wax like paper brushing cloth. A janitor cart parked near a locked door. The cart handle gleamed like a hook waiting. "Down the ramp," she said. Her whisper barely lifted past the vents. The ramp rail felt sticky and warm under my palm. The stairwell echoed with our careful steps, hollow. An office door ahead glowed with a green strip. The keypad chirped when her thumb hit the reader. Hot dust drifted from a vent like attic air. The knob turned with a rubbery squeal slow. Inside, the copy room smelled like toner and glue. A stack of white reams squatted beside a cutter. The overhead tube hummed and bled a harsh blue. "5 sheets," she said, and fed the tray. She printed a pass marked alternate seating. The paper warmed my fingertips like bread. Date and seat number glared in new ink. "Use this at the door," she said. "Don't look back." A shadow crossed the strip of light beneath. Boots paused and turned toward a hinge. The handle twitched once like something alive. She killed the light and mouthed, "Wait," eyes bright. Silence pooled and then thinned in the dark. My breath brushed the sheet like sand over glass. The cutter's metal bar pressed against my hip. The boots moved on too slow for comfort. She turned the light back with a quick flick. The room snapped white as if nothing moved. A glue stick rolled and tapped the cabinet. "Move now," she said and slid the folder in. We drifted into the counseling hall again. Air tasted sharp like pennies in fear. A trophy case threw back her shapes and stripes. Someone spoke near the corner, low and close. "Office check," a man said. His radio hissed and then popped. The red lens on his body cam blinked. His hand rested on a clipboard, steady. She nodded at a side door with a push bar. The bar looked greasy in the fluorescent wash. I braced a shoulder and felt the rubber give. We slipped into a guidance room, quiet and beige. The room smelled like dry carpet and apples. A poster peeled at the edges near a lamp. A small safe sat under a desk with dust. She knelt and turned the dial, fingers sure. The safe clicked and opened like a held breath. Inside lay a sealed envelope and a stamp. The stamp handle was worn smooth by use. "This is for your booklet," she said, eyes firm. "Not the roster," she said. She tapped the wood like a warning. The lampshade thrown light in a tight halo. She passed me the stamp and waited. I tested the grip and felt the grooves. Ink pad bled a chemical smell into the room. The stamp face showed first name verified in mirror. "Use it once," she said, then stopped. A printer woke next door with a growl. Feet shuffled by and paused at our wall. Light leaked under the door like spilled milk. My chest hammered against the folder hard. She slid me a second pass with a seal. The seal shimmered with blue threads in the paper. A tiny hologram flashed when I tilted it. "Auditor will try to intercept," she said. "Believe it." "Which one?" I asked. My voice scratched like chalk on slate. She closed the safe and turned the dial twice. "The one with the smooth camera," she said. The bell rang and flooded the hall with noise. Lockers slammed like drums in a concrete cave. The guidance door rattled once as bodies flowed. She checked her watch, face bright and ruthless. "You have 8 minutes," she said. Her breath brushed my cheek like warm wind. The plastic chair beside us scraped under my knee. "I'll walk you to security," she said, "then you go." We stepped into the main corridor in time. The light panels hummed over a sea of backpacks. A fallen pin rolled across the wax and spun. I stepped over it and kept moving, eyes up. The security desk loomed with a buzzing scanner. A bowl of mints sat by a cracked mouse pad. A gray jacket man leaned against the counter. His badge reflected the ceiling lights sharp. "Alternate seating," she said. Her tone cut like a blade wrapped in velvet. The scanner chirped and showed a green bar. The guard tilted his head, almost impressed. He lifted a binder with clear sleeves. The plastic crackled like fire when he turned. A small photo sheet peeked from the pocket. He tapped a blank space, meant for a surname. "Number is enough," she said. Her nails clicked the laminate twice. The guard's radio muttered a code and then sighed. He handed me a visitor sticker, hasty. We moved and the hall broke into chatter. Headphones leaked tinny drums into fluorescent air. A poster curled near a drinking fountain and snapped. I gripped the folder until it bowed stiff. The exam door waited with a small glass square. I saw a row B through the washed window light. My pass sat hot in my palm like coal. She touched my shoulder once, then let go. "Remember the stamp," she said. The words landed like pins in cloth. The knob felt warm and rough under my skin. I pushed through as the proctor looked up, curious. The room smelled like dry paper and pencils. The projector threw a dull map on the board. A stack of new booklets sat on a cart. The proctor lifted one and held it out, measured. "Alternate seating," I said. I placed the pass beside his roster. His eyes flicked to the hologram and back. He nodded and set the roster aside slow. He pointed at the name box with a pen. The pen clicked and echoed in the hush. The fluorescent buzz grew like pressure in water. He slid a rubber stamp toward me, silent. I pressed my own stamp to the pad. The pad felt gummy and cold as clay. The handle fit my thumb like a key ring. I stamped first name verified into the margin, clean. The ink smell climbed and stung the back of my throat. The letters glistened before they dried like tar. The box for surname stayed white as bone. The camera lens blinked, one red pulse. "Start when ready," he said. He set a timer on the desk. The timer face glowed green under the light. I wrote my first name and number, steady. The door opened and air pushed across my skin. Leather cologne drifted in from a hallway. A clipboard brushed the frame with a soft scrape. A man with a smooth camera stepped in casual. He stood near the cart and watched ants. His camera lens drank the rose without blinking. The overhead lights washed his cheeks to marble. He smiled at the proctor, thin and pleasant. "Routine audit," he said. He rocked on his heels and waited. The plastic badge on his chest read External Services. His finger tapped the clipboard, tick-tick. My page rustled under my wrist like silk. The pen barrel warmed as my grip tightened. The blank surname box pressed against my eye. I drew a small line where air lived, nothing more. He drifted closer and paused at my desk. His shadow cooled the paper to slate. A ring on his thumb clicked the clipboard. "Need your last name," he said and smiled. "You have my number," I said. I kept my eyes on the map. The projector hum filled the space like snow. His knuckle brushed the card, metal on bone. "Policy wants both," he said. He tilted the clipboard so the lights glared. The glare swallowed the lines of his form. My pulse pounded inside my eardrums. The proctor cleared his throat and lifted a stamp. The stamp face flashed manual ID under the tubes. His sleeve smelled like starch and dry soap. He pressed it near my header firm. "That is sufficient," he said. His voice carried without rising. The timer ticked one notch louder on the desk. The auditor's smile did not move, just cooled. He shifted his weight and turned his lens. The lens took the stamped words like a trophy. Fluorescent light fractured across the glass and scattered. He lowered the clipboard, then spoke. "I will note an exception," he said. He tapped the margin with a dull pen cap. A scratch hummed when it touched the paper. "We reconcile later," he said and watched. A text thumped the prepaid phone in my pocket. Vibration crawled along my thigh like an ant. I kept my hand flat on the deskwood. The words on the page steadied, line by line. The proctor moved to the front with slow steps. His shoes whispered like a broom on stage. A glass of water sat by the projector stand. He looked at the clock and waited stone. The auditor retreated a pace and wrote. The pen rasped dry circles on the clipboard. His camera light ticked twice, then stilled. He stood in the aisle like a thorn, silent. I filled the first section and breathed again. Paper rasped softly under my moving hand. A narrow ruler lay by the cart and shone. The room held its breath with me tight. A hallway bell chirped a short warning. The sound skimmed the ceiling like a pebble. The auditor flinched and glanced at the door. He smiled again, forced and white. He drifted out before the chirp faded. The door eased shut and stifled the cologne. The timer face reflected on the metal knob. The red camera dot steadied, watchful and small. I finished the page and turned with care. The booklet paper dragged at my fingertips. A pencil shaving curled like a ribbon by my shoe. I towed it away and kept writing, focused. Outside, a radio crackled and spat near the lockers. Light wobbled on the glass like water. A laminated map scuffed the sill when air shifted. The proctor touched it flat. Anchor set. I wrote until the timer chimed a soft tone. The tone sat in the air like a coin toss. My pen clicked as I capped it with care. I set it beside the stapler, blade bright. He came for the booklet without speaking. His palm brushed the page with dry heat. The rubber stamp mark looked dark and final. He slid my test under a blue cover, hidden. "You may go," he said. He kept his eyes on the stack. The clock hands crossed and held like locked swords. I stood and felt the floor give, barely. The door's metal was cold against my palm. Hall air smelled like cleaner and tired sweat. The visitor sticker tugged my shirt like a pebble. I stepped through into the fluorescent river, alive. She waited 2 doors down by the case. Her eyes shone in the humming light like glass. A folded pass peeked from her sleeve. "Walk," she said, and turned. We moved past the office with a wail. The lamp still burned a small circle on wood. A single paper clip rested by the blotter. I fixed the image in my head, proof. At the exit, rain roared against the awning. The smell of wet concrete rose like smoke. A plastic trash can shivered with water bouncing. She pressed the bar and we slipped out quick. The gray sedan idled across the loop. Its wipers beat a flat rhythm into mist. Headlights cut stripes across a slick lane. The trunk twitched once, then settled. "Left," she said. Her hand tightened on my sleeve. The badge string rasped against my collar. We ran through silver rain, toward the lot and beyond.